Boots scuffed against warped planks as laughter spilled out of the saloon. "Widow Weston," one voice jeered, sharp as a spur, "ain't no whiskey strong enough to drown the curse you carry." Clara Weston pushed through the swinging doors, her palm pressed firm against her swollen belly. The porch boards creaked under her weight as she stood straight, chin high against the smirks of two drifters leaning in the shade. Their spurs jingled, their teeth yellow in the half-light. "Best keep walking," she said, voice steady though her knuckles whitened around the locket she clutched. Wind lifted strands of her dark hair, carrying the grit of the desert across the empty main street. The men chuckled low, one spitting brown tobacco into the dust. "Ain't no man fool enough to hitch himself to you now," he muttered. Clara's hand did not tremble when she reached for the worn rifle strapped across her back. She didn't raise it, but the gleam of iron silenced their grins. The saloon door swung behind her as gamblers leaned to watch, the piano inside falling quiet, the notes hanging like ghosts. A crow screeched from the roofline. Silence followed. The drifters cursed under their breath and shuffled off, boots grinding gravel, swallowed by the blowing dust at the edge of town. Clara stepped down from the porch. The church bell clanged once, faint in the hot wind, as though the town itself whispered her name in pity. Her eyes narrowed. She walked the length of the street, past shuttered windows and wagons sitting crooked, each step measured, shoulders squared against the world. At the far end of town, under the shadow of a leaning hitching post, a man watched her. Elias Boone stood with his hat low, dust coating the hem of his duster. He did not speak. He simply leaned on the post, arms folded, gaze fixed on the woman who refused to bow beneath the weight of whispers. Clara felt his eyes, sharp as a hawk's, but she did not falter. She passed him without a word, the sound of her boots lost to the sigh of wind through the canyon mouth. That evening, the widow's cabin glowed faint with lantern light, its walls thin against the rattling of coyotes on the ridge. Clara sat by the table, tracing the cracked edge of a plate with her finger, the rifle laid across her lap. The locket lay open before her late husband's face staring back from behind glass. A knock sounded at the door, firm, deliberate. Clara rose, wary, hand brushing the rifle stock. When she opened it, the loner rancher stood there, dusk at his back, his presence filling the threshold. Elias Boone's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of stone. "Your child will need a father," he said, "and I want a home." The lantern flickered. Clara's breath caught. In the silence that followed, the desert itself seemed to listen. The ground trembled before the sound reached town. Hooves struck the canyon floor like thunder rolling low and angry. Dust rose on the horizon, a red haze against the sinking sun. Kane Mercer rode at the front. His coat was black, his beard ragged, his smile thin as a blade. 6 riders flanked him, rifles slung low, eyes sharp beneath wide brims. Their shadows stretched long across the road, reaching ahead of them like claws. They entered without a word. Horses snorted, iron shoes clattering on the hard-packed street. Merchants ducked behind shutters. Mothers dragged children indoors. The saloon's piano choked into silence. Only the creak of leather and the jangle of spurs filled the air. Kane swung down from his horse. Boots at dust. He walked slow, as if he owned every board, every nail, every breath in that town. His gaze fixed on the church steeple, then slid toward the far cabin beyond the well. Clara's cabin. "Weston," his voice cracked like a whip across the square. "Your man owed me silver. Dead men don't pay their debts. Guess that leaves you." Clara stood in her doorway, the lantern behind her throwing her silhouette sharp against the night. One hand rested on her swollen belly, the other gripped the frame of the door. She did not answer. Kane smirked, stepping closer. Dust swirled at his boots. "I'll give you until the week's end. Pay what's owed, or I'll take what's mine another way." His men laughed, the sound bitter as rust. From the hitching post near the livery, Elias Boone shifted. He leaned forward, hat brim shadowing his face. He said nothing, but his presence carried weight. The townsfolk glanced his way, whispering. Some swore they'd seen him draw faster than lightning once, long ago. Others muttered of blood on his hands. Kane's eyes flicked toward him. A slow grin spread across his face. Didn't know the ghost of Boone still walked. Elias did not move. His silence pressed heavier than Kane's threats. Clara's voice cut through the tension, low but fierce. My husband's debts are buried with him. You'll get nothing from me. The gang stiffened, hands brushing steel. Kane chuckled, a sound that curdled the air. Brave words for a woman alone. We'll be back. Best be ready to answer proper. He turned, mounting his horse in a single swing. The riders wheeled as one, hooves striking sparks from the stone, vanishing into the desert as fast as they'd come. The town exhaled in ragged silence. Lanterns flickered to life along the street. Doors creaked open, faces peering out with fear still painted on them. Elias stepped from the shadows, his boots crunching gravel as he walked toward Clara's cabin. He stopped short of her porch, eyes meeting hers, unreadable as the desert sky. Inside, the locket glimmered on the table. Clara's hand never left the rifle leaning against the frame. Rain hammered the roof in jagged bursts, rattling loose shingles, streaming down the window in crooked lines. Clara sat by the table, lantern light trembling over her face. The rifle lay across her lap, barrel slick with storm water she'd carried in from a porch. The wind pushed against the walls as though it meant to tear the cabin apart. She held the locket open, her husband's face blurred by the wavering flame. Her hand pressed to her belly, the child kicking beneath her palm, alive, insistent. Another knock struck the door. 3 firm raps, steady against the roar of the storm. Clara rose, boots echoing on the warped floorboards. She pulled the door wide, and Elias Boone stood there, rain streaming from his hat, his shoulders dark with water. His eyes, hard as the stones in the canyon, fixed on her. "Marry me," he said, voice low, cut clean through the thunder. Clara's jaw tightened. "You come here with thunder in the sky, and think I'll fall into your arms? Why me? Why now?" Elias stepped inside, closing the door against the storm. Water dripped from his coat, pooling on the floor. He stood tall, but his gaze was heavy with something older than pride. "I've walked with killers," he said, voice flat. "Men who carved their names in lead and blood. I was one of them. Fastest gun in 3 territories. Folks call me Boone the Black Hand." Clara's fingers tightened around the rifle stock. The lantern hissed. "One night," Elias went on, "a child got caught in crossfire. My bullet or theirs, I never knew. I swore then I'd bury the gun, bury the name, and never draw again. Been chasing silence ever since." The storm outside bellowed, shaking the walls, but his words hung heavier than thunder. Clara stepped closer, eyes locked on his. "And now you come to me. Not for love. Not for kin. You want redemption. You think I'm your path to it." Elias did not flinch. "I want a reason to stand. You and that child. Give me that reason. I'll give you my name, my land, my gun if it comes to it. The outlaws won't take what's yours while I draw breath." Clara's breath caught, her palm pressing harder to the swell of her belly. The storm rattled the window. Lightning split the sky, lighting his face in stark relief, haunted, scarred, unyielding. At last she spoke. "I'll marry you, Elias Boone. But hear me plain, I won't be some fragile thing to hide behind you. I'll stand with you, fight with you, on my terms." The rancher gave one slow nod. No smile, no relief, only the solemn weight of a pact sealed in stormlight. Far off, beneath the thunder, gunfire cracked, Kane Mercer's men loosing shots into the air, a promise that blood would spill at dawn. The lantern guttered. Clara and Elias stood in silence, the storm wrapping them like iron chains. Hooves tore through the dawn, the gang silhouettes rising with the dust. Kane Mercer rode at their head, pistol high, the desert sun flashing off its barrel. The first shot cracked, splintering Clara's fence. Chickens scattered, wings thrashing, the sound drowned by the roar of horses. Elias Boone stepped from the porch. His coat hung still, his boots sinking into the dust. A revolver gleamed in his hand, steady as if carved from stone. Kane reined in, laughter booming. "Boone the Black Hand, thought you'd buried your iron. Let's see if the ghost still got blood in him." Elias said nothing. His eyes never left Kane. The wind carried the smell of sweat and gun oil. 2 riders spurred forward, rifles raised. A single crack split the air, Elias's gun smoking before the echo rolled. One outlaw toppled sideways, his horse bolting wild. Clara's rifle thundered next, the second man dropping hard into the dirt. The gang faltered. Cain's grin faltered wider. "You brought her into it?" he sneered. Clara stood firm in the yard, her skirts whipping in the wind, barrel leveled without tremor. "You rode here to take what ain't yours. Try it." Cain swung his pistol up. The world shrank to dust, sun, and silence. Elias moved, steel blurred, faster than the blink of an eye. Cain's shot fired wide, shattering the porch rail. Elias's bullet tore through Cain's chest, snapping him back in the saddle before he crashed to the earth. The outlaws froze. Clara fired again, the shot ringing into the canyon walls. The gang broke, scattering into the desert, their curses carried off by the wind. Silence fell heavy. Only the groan of Cain Mercer dying in the dust remained. His fingers clawed weakly at the ground, blood spreading dark beneath him. His eyes lifted once, meeting Boone's. Then they dimmed, swallowed by the sun. Elias lowered his gun. Smoke curled from the barrel, vanishing in the morning breeze. Clara stepped forward, her hand pressed against her belly, her breath sharp but steady. She stood beside him, rifle still warm, her shadow long across the ground. On the ridge, townsfolk watched in awe, whispers carrying like dry leaves. Some swore Boone drew faster than any man alive. Others said the widow's shot was truer than the desert's own edge. The wind shifted, lifting the dust, erasing tracks as though the earth itself meant to bury the blood. And so the tale was carried, retold where firelight cracked and whiskey poured. That a widow with child and a rancher haunted by ghosts stood together at dawn, when Cain Mercer's reign ended in ashes. Some called it Boone's redemption. Some called it the widow's rise. But all agreed, the desert never forgot the day two souls carved their names into legend.